All animation was created with the Commodore Amiga computer and produced by customers of the product, which I feel is important, because if a customer can use a package, then anyone can. Richard Payne produced this piece of animation by texture mapping the sky onto a stock head shape. He calls it Four Guys. It was one of his earlier works. This is called Planetoids. Also a simple example of texture mapping. Very trivial piece of animation to produce. Richard was very proud of this piece of animation. He calls it Robo Nike. I feel it's rather clever. Notice the blinking of the eye and the full motion of the lens that protrudes out of the front. Any kind of vignette could have been made using this piece of animation. These are some of the early works that I did myself. Might be a bit too much of this. It was one of the very early pieces of animation. It shows the full articulation of this character. As the shoulder moves, the forearm moves, etc. The aliasing is quite bad, but since then the program has improved significantly, and it provides an anti-aliasing technique. Aliasing, what I mean by that are the sharp jaggies along the edges of the figure. This particular character is shaded with the intensity of the light turned way up. I have since learned that the intensity should be lower. This is the same character rendered in what I call Saturday morning mode. As you can see, we can play it back at just about any speed. Saturday morning mode is flat texturing, even though it is a 3D animation, with a black outline that surrounds the parts. Again, this is a very early piece of animation and has been significantly improved on. All of these pieces of animation are running off the Amiga in real time and recorded right on a videotape. The significance of this animation is how easy it was to produce. It has high specular reflectivity with smoothing turned on. It was less than 20 minutes to create from concept to end on this animation, and then about 3 hours to actually dump the frames out. The frames are dumped in non-real time, but then play back at the rate that you're watching them. It is called pawns. This is another early piece of animation. It was originally rendered in 4096 colors on a low-res screen. What you're seeing now is a high-res screen in 16 colors. And notice there is no aliasing at all. It proves that the 702 by 480 screen is quite good quality as far as jaggies go. The number of colors, however, is a limitation. This is the famous Smurf. It's rendered in low res in 32 colors, and there's lots of aliasing, but that is mostly because of the limitation in colors. In real life, this piece of animation actually looks quite vibrant, and the loss in detail is mostly due to the home video equipment. Notice how the Smurf blinks his eyes, his eyebrows move, his lips move, his hands move. It's fully articulated. What we're watching is mostly camera motion. This is Daniel Wiles' first piece of animation. The hand itself was originally designed to do an A-OK sign, and the finger does the walking through the yellow pages. And this was a later example, but still the basic same piece of animation. He chose to do a robot hand, but that could just as easily have been a human hand or any kind of caricature. It has specular reflection turned on, and he hand painted the ball for the texture mapping. I told him he ought to put his face on the ball. That would have been much easier and a lot more impressive. But then again, we could do that in just minutes and re-render this animation. This piece of animation was done by Orlando Rivera's brother. He calls it the worm, and it was done with the smoothing turned off, and that's the graininess that you see. Since that time I have not allowed that particular aspect. Now smoothing is always turned on, but it was an experiment. The motion is quite good on this character, however. This was the hit at the Commodore show. It's called Trex. It's got the motion of this Tyrannosaurus Rex head perfectly, even though it's quite simple. It's just a jaw and an upper face. We've talked about putting eyelids on and flaring the nostrils, which would be very easy. And the body, once it's attached, would make this an extremely believable piece of animation. Adults and children alike both stopped and stared at this for minutes. Steve Cummings is an artist, and he does a lot of texture mapping, specular reflection. Most of the animations he does, some people would consider outrageous. We have a couple examples here. This is called the Coke Man. He did it in his first 2 hours that he owned the product. He used a stock character, which we've seen walking in one of the animations that I did, digitized in a Coke can with a simple $200 device called a DigiView that hooks onto the Amiga, and put that onto the body. Here's the body again with the sky texture mapped onto the torso, things called earth boxes flying all around, and notice the high specular reflectivity. Those are the highlights across the chest and on the boxes as they turn around. The red thing in the corner is supposed to be a heart with a crack through it. Don't ask me to explain it. I just find it very interesting. And the night sky on this gentleman's head really looks like a piece of obsidian with a high glare off of it. And that's the last of the Apprentice tape. If you have any questions, please call me at 206-256-8567. Thank you very much.